The Trump-Putin summit received mixed reactions from friends and foes. Political analyst Atiba Madyun is here to help us digest it all. He's president and founder of Party Politics US. Welcome. This explanation, it seems like a real stretch. Would, wouldn't, but it was more than just a word. It was his body language, how expressive he was. Does the backpedaling, does it serve a purpose? Does it have much of an impact, do you think?
Only for him. It doesn't serve us a purpose, I don't think, in terms of overall, because if you go back and look at and listen to exactly what he said, if you look at his body language during that press conference, it doesn't appear that a would or a wouldn't really matters. It really sounded as if he said specifically that Putin made a powerful statement saying that they were not involved in any meddling in our elections. And our intelligence is telling us the opposite, and citizens have been saying the same thing all around this country. So I don't think a would or a wouldn't changes that.
The interesting thing about this U.S. president, though, is tomorrow he can go on a tweet storm and kind of change the conversation. Is this, it seems like the stories just kind of go on and on and on. Is this one, does it have lasting appeal, do you think?
It has, because he's the president, everyone pays attention to what he's saying. But as I watched today him make the statement in the cabinet room with congressional leaders, Republican leaders, for me, it was fake news. It was, you're trying to change a narrative of something and backpedal, something that you said, but we watched it. We watched you say it. This wasn't a thing about the media coming out and saying, well, the president said this. This is something that millions of us here and abroad were watching, and we watched what he said, and I don't think that the backpedaling should help him. He can control the narrative because he's the president of the United States, and we typically follow and listen to what the president has to say. But to change a would to a wouldn't, for me, did not change the meaning of what he was saying.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said it's indisputable Russians meddled in the election. Speaker Ryan also said the same thing. He said, we stand by our NATO allies and all those countries facing Russian aggression, both of them out front, not mentioning Trump by name, but definitely attacking what he had to say. George Will, a conservative columnist, said that he's a sad, embarrassing wreck of a man. You're hearing a lot of conservatives piling on, which they've been kind of quiet. Does it change things at all?
I think it's really important to backtrack and look at a history of things that have been going on for maybe the last 6 or 7 years. And when you go back to President Obama, for instance, I wonder what the conversation would be today had President Obama held this same type of summit or same type of meeting and the press conference and had said the same things as this president has. But there was a meeting that they tried to have between Obama and Putin, and there was a reason why that meeting didn't happen, and a lot of it had to do with intelligence, and some of our intelligence being taken. We're still wondering, again, we're not really talking about this. I don't see it being talked about now, but the fact that the president would sit down and have a meeting with President Putin and not talk about some of the other transgressions that have happened that have made this relationship difficult and strained, as well as looking at what happened with Crimea. There's so many different pieces to this that come into play that we're not hearing the president talk about. What we're talking about, this narrative, is a would or wouldn't, or were they involved in our election meddling? We already know they were involved in they already meddled. We already know that. We know about the Russian bots. We know about what they were doing. The question is the president going to accept the fact that this happened? Because if he does, it makes it, for him, I think it makes it appear that his election is incredible.
His meeting with Putin, just he and that leader there with their interpreters, will we ever know what was discussed?
I'd love to know what was. I wish I was a fly on the wall and had an idea of what they talked about. I don't know. I mean, we're hearing congressional leaders on the Democratic side question, what is it that they have? Do they have some information on the president? We don't know. We don't know what happened in that meeting that was supposed to be 30 minutes that I think lasted almost 2 hours. I'd love to know what happened, and will we ever know? That's a good question.
Does this have any impact on the midterm elections, which are not that far off?
It just depends on whether or not the Democrats use this as a rallying cry to inspire their base. Right now, to be honest with you, it looks like there's a lot of issues that the Democratic Party needs to address. The question, I think, also is, will Russia meddle in this election again? Are we prepared to stop it? Are citizens going to be more aware, whether or not it's fake news or is it going to go so far as to impact our voting machines? There's just so many different questions here at play. So it'll be interesting to see what the voter turnout is in 2018. I'm hoping that our voter turnout is enormous. I'm hoping that on both sides, regardless of who's voting for who, that we see that this democracy is strong and that people are going to go out and vote. Right now, I'm wondering if people are just tired of the narrative of this continuing to go on. I see it every day on social media. There are a lot of people that are talking about it from both sides of the aisle. How this is going to impact the elections, we still don't know.
All right, Atiba, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.